Welcome to Down the Road. We're going to talk everything from toys to money to zebra mussels. That's how we're going to start. Ben Holen joins us. Now, Ben is the Aquatic Nuisance Species Coordinator. That's a big title. That means he understands the aquatic species of a lake, and he works with North Dakota Game and Fish. Ben, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Thanks for having me on, Joel.
There's this little lake south of Hankinson that I adore, that I love ever since I was a little kid. It's called Lake Elsie. You found zebra mussels in Lake Elsie, this good, clean, spring-fed lake. What does this mean for Lake Elsie, and did it surprise you?
You know, I guess it really wasn't too shocking given the amount of watercraft traffic it gets from Minnesota and some other bodies that have infested waters, zebra mussel infested waters. Lake Elsie's got a ton of boating traffic. It's high use water recreation. There's boat docks and boat lifts, so there's lots of vectors where zebra mussel introductions could come in. Cabin owners can probably expect over the next few years to see an increase of zebra mussels on docks, lifts, and equipments. I really recommend if you can get your boat or pontoon up out of the water, that's probably best so you don't have zebra mussels attaching to that equipment.
One of the things I learned, in the proximity I live to Minnesota, I have a ton of friends that go to Minnesota, to Lakes Country. They have their cabins there, and they come over, they fish. I don't want to blame anybody, but the truth of the matter is, you're right. We get a lot of traffic between Minnesota and North Dakota, and of course, Minnesota, the zebra mussels are quite high in some of the lakes. But one of the things in talking with them that they really stress with me is to make sure when you put that boat on the lift to lift the motor up. That can be a real issue, Ben.
Yep, no, it definitely can. The zebra mussels, they'll attach to anywhere, and that includes inside your motor. So if you leave your boat or motor in there, they can actually attach actively inside your engine near that water intake and prevent water from going up into your engine and damage your engine. So it's definitely in the boater's best interest and, in our best interest. If you're on Elsie and you want to go somewhere else, get that boat up out of the water so you don't have zebra mussel adults actively attaching to that boat or motor.
Now, zebra mussels in Elsie, that's one example, but we've found them in North Dakota and other places.
Yep. This is our fourth lake now that we have here in North Dakota. So as far as, the rest of the country in a lot of areas, we're doing quite well. We only have 4 water bodies, Lake Ashtabula, Lake Lemoore, Twin Lake, and now Lake Elsie, that have zebra mussels. So over these next, few years, it's going to be a critical time where water recreationists really need to step up and inspect their boats and their docks and lifts and equipment and any recreational gear and make sure it's, clean, drain, and dry before going to the next water body.
So if you have zebra mussels in Ashtabula, obviously, does that mean the Cheyenne? Does that mean, they're in the river, which means they're going to get everywhere? I mean, Ben, walk me through that.
Sure. So zebra mussels, they do something called broadcast spawn. So male and female will release gametes. Those gametes will meet. They will form something called a veliger. That veliger free floats in the water for 2 to 3 weeks. So basically, it's completely controlled by the wave action or downstream movement. So when you get a zebra mussel population, those veligers are coming downstream too. So everything from Lake Ashtabula down in the Cheyenne River that dumps into the Red River will get zebra mussels and have zebra mussel populations too. After those 2-3 weeks, they settle off and start attaching on substrate and form, adult mussels.
Do they have zebra mussels in Lake Winnipeg yet?
Yep, they do.
Okay.
Yep, it came up the Red River and are in Lake Winnipeg, and just recently they found them in Lake Manitoba also.
Okay, just the name of it, Ben, and the sheer look that you just saw on the show. Is it as drastic as that? What changes for those people on any one of these lakes?
And it really depends on what the lake is, its nutrient input. All these lakes are a little bit different. We're different than Minnesota. We have a lot of, high nutrients lakes compared to Minnesota. So, what I worry about on some of our cabin lakes, we got shallow prairie pothole lakes. They've taken all that nutrients in the form of algae. They'll increase water clarity, but that nutrients is going somewhere. most of the times it's going into the bottom zone of the lake, which increases plant growth. So now you got increased water clarity, increased plant growth, and your weed line can, take over quite fast in different areas. So hopefully not on Elsie, but on some waters, we've seen that weed line, extend well past docks and lifts where, your boaters and cabin owners are mad because it's having a hard time launching their watercraft right off their dock or lift.
So walk me through what changes for the individual that uses it recreationally, that jet skis, that swims, that, does those type of things. What changes for them?
Sure. For swimmers, zebra mussels, they can ball up, and if you don't have protective footwear, you can easily cut your feet, so they can provide a hazard to people that are out there swimming. For water recreationists, they can attach to basically any hard substrate. So like we mentioned before, you're going to be wanting to get your jet skis and everything out of the water because you'll definitely have zebra mussels start settling in them over time. And then for people on that lake, if you want to go to the next water body, know that if your boat or jet ski or whatever has been moored in a zebra mussel positive lakes, you need to take steps to prevent the spread in other lakes. So we highly recommend, if you've been on a zebra mussel infested water body, that you thoroughly inspect your equipment. If you have access to hot water, hit the hull, hit the engine areas with hot water, 140 degrees, 10 seconds contact time. If you can do a hot water engine flush, that would be awesome on that. And then one thing that anybody can do is allow that jet ski, that boat, or whatever you plan to take out to thoroughly dry in a hot summer day. So zebra mussels, they're fairly resistant out of water. Under perfect conditions, they can live out of 21 days out of water if the moisture is right and it's 40 degrees. But on a hot North Dakota summer's week where it's 80 plus and UV lights hitting them, they're probably toast within a week.
So let's use my lake again as an example. We just pulled out, we got the boat lift, we got the pontoon, we got the, all the different toys that you can have, plus a number of docks. Once I heard that there were zebra mussels in Elsie, the first thing I did was walk down and look at everything. We hadn't really kept an eye out for that yet. And so I didn't find anything. Does that mean that it's just getting started? I mean, what phase would that put us in?
Yeah, this population's in its infancy. So, when I went down there to sample it earlier this year, I think I found 2-year classes of zebra mussels in there. One that was freshly settled this year, and some larger ones that were probably produced in 2020. So, it will take a few years for that population to build up where you start seeing them on a lot of different structure. Usually within the first couple years, you just might find one or two on some deeper structure within the lake. And I ended up finding some on some substrate that we put in the lake to identify it there and on some docks and lifts. But, Ashtabula came positive in 2019, and it's, obviously 2021, and every lake owner, every cabin owner is well aware of the zebra mussel population now, because if you pull out your dock or lift, it's completely encrusted with zebra mussels on that lake.
Okay. So once you pull out the dock or lift, and as you said, 21 days or whatever out of water, what happens after that? Can you take the paint scraper to them? I mean, what do you do?
Yeah, no, it's best to get them off. My recommendation, get them off and then, properly dispose of them in the trash, because those zebra mussels, dead or alive, they will stick on that dock for, years and years to come, even when they're dead. So over time, you'll have them bioaccumulate on your dock. So you have dead ones on the dock, and then live ones will start attaching to the dead ones. And then so you'll have, 2-3 inches thick of zebra mussels on your dock, and it can be, a recreational hazard if you're out there working around the dock and get cut or things like that. So I recommend getting them off if you can.
Does it change at all with, big rains, with water going up instead of going down like it was this year?
As far as the population?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it might allow them to settle on some new structure that they didn't have access before. We talked about Lake Elsie is super limited on what it has for structure. Zebra mussels like attaching to hard structure. Elsie's got a lot of sand bottoms. The only structure it has there is a lot of the man-made riprap that's been put in, and also docks and lifts. So that increased water volume can allow it to probably attach to more structure.
Okay, so what you're talking about is water shoes. That's what you're saying to me. For the grandkids, for the kids, for everybody,
yeah.
Time for water shoes.
Definitely, it is time for water shoes. And you might not see it, like you said, these first couple of years, but I guarantee you over the next 3-4 years, you're going to definitely know that there's zebra mussels within that lake.
Is this going to be a permanent factor? Is this going to be something that's around forever?
Sure. And once they're in a water body, they're nearly impossible to eliminate. There's been very few successful eradications. It's very tough, and it's very it costs thousands upon thousands of dollars, and most eradication attempts aren't even successful. So the good news is, in some areas that have similar water conditions to us, you see between 3, 4, 5 years of that initial introduction, the zebra mussels just go bananas within water body where you pull all your docks and lifts and they are completely encrusted. They tend to seem like they reach a carrying capacity, whether that be just available food or just too abundant, and then they start to come down where they're not as prolific as those first few years after introduction.
So there's no natural predator.
We have fish species that will eat them. In the ground, in the Great Lakes where they're originally introduced, round gobies eat them. Here in North Dakota, there are some fish species that will eat them, like freshwater drum and common carp. But I think most anglers don't want any common carp and drum fisheries out there in the landscape either. So
yeah,
biocontrol is really not an option in our neck of the woods here.
Ben,
and the population.
Oh, sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
No. Yep, and just the populations, even with fish species that are effective at eating them, are just not able to eat enough zebra mussels to make that big of a difference in a lot of areas.
Ben, none of it's good news. Maybe a little bit, but when you live by a lake like I do, I guess it doesn't surprise me. And it's just something we're going to have to learn to live with. So always good talking to you, Ben. Thanks for coming on.